The dark signal. The night over New York was alive with its usual chaos. Sirens, chatter, the hum of neon signs, and the occasional thump of Spider-Man's webbing sticking to glass and concrete. For most people, this was the soundtrack of home. For Peter Parker, it was just another work shift. He swung across the Manhattan skyline, scanning the streets below for trouble. But tonight something gnawed at him. His spider sense, normally a sharp tug in the gut, was different. It was less like a warning and more like an echo, an unsettling vibration that pulsed from somewhere beyond Earth itself. "Yeah, this feels normal," Peter muttered under his breath, landing on the edge of a skyscraper and adjusting his mask. Totally fine to get intergalactic migraines before midnight. Definitely not a red flag. Far above, orbiting satellites shivered under a burst of invisible energy. NASA's deep space monitors caught it first. A rippling wave of coded signals from deep space, laced with strange, almost biological patterns. They called it static. They were wrong. Miles away, in a quiet observatory in upstate New York, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw froze as her instruments screamed with data. She leaned forward, adjusting her headset. "This isn't a star, this isn't pulsar noise. This is intentional." And deep within the cosmos, something answered. Across the 9 realms, the sky above Asgard lit with unfamiliar storms. Lightning without thunder cracked the heavens. Heimdall, who no longer guarded the Bifrost but still felt the threads of existence, whispered a warning into the winds. "Darkness takes form. The night awakens." The words reached Thor Odinson as he stood in the Hall of Heroes, gazing at murals of past wars. Since Ragnarok, Thor had carried the weight of both protector and wanderer. Midgard had been left to its heroes, but whispers of corruption beyond the stars pulled him back into vigilance. The sky split above him, showing a rift of shadows, crawling and twisting like living veins. Thor clenched Mjolnir tightly, its thunder responding to his unease. "Father warned me of this kind of storm," he said. But not even Odin spoke of a night forged in darkness. He closed his eyes and felt the pull. Midgard was calling him again. And so, with the crack of lightning and the shimmer of the Bifrost, Thor descended toward Earth. Meanwhile, Peter wasn't alone in feeling uneasy. His spider sense had become unbearable, forcing him to perch atop the Empire State Building just to breathe. The vibrations weren't danger in the traditional sense. They were like whispers of 1,000 voices pressing against his skull. "Okay, Parker, think," he whispered, rubbing his mask. "You fought aliens, gods, clones, and way too many guys dressed like animals. But this feels like the universe is sending me text messages in Morse code. And I don't even have international roaming." His phone buzzed. An alert from J. Jonah Jameson's network. Peter sighed, swiping it open. Breaking. "Unusual cosmic energy reaches Earth. Government on alert." "Great," Peter muttered. "Cosmic energy. Because I wasn't busy enough already." Then lightning split the sky. It wasn't the kind of storm Manhattan was used to. It was clean, divine, and precise. When Thor landed with a crash that shattered a taxi's windshield, Spider-Man didn't even flinch. "Thor," Peter said, hopping down. "You do know Uber exists, right? Less collateral damage." Thor turned, his eyes glowing faintly with the storm's power. "Spider-Man. Midgard bleeds with warnings. Something beyond the stars approaches, and only fools would ignore it. Funny you say that because my brain has been buzzing like a broken alarm clock all night. Guess we're in the same nightmare." Thor's expression darkened. "Not nightmare. Evolution." On the other side of the world, in a hidden bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, the first fragments of alien metal began knitting themselves into shape. It was armor unlike any seen before, alive, pulsing with crimson veins that writhed like they had a mind of their own. At its core sat the seed of dark evolution, a relic from a forgotten war between civilizations older than Earth's sun. It had drifted through the void for millennia, waiting for a world ripe for transformation. Humanity's technological arrogance and fragile bodies made the perfect breeding ground. the armor clamped together, forming the outline of a knight. Its helmet gleamed with a black mirror surface, reflecting nothing. Its chest throbbed with a heart made of pure void. And when its eyes opened, burning red and merciless, the dark evolution finally found its champion. The alien knight had risen. Peter and Thor weren't the only ones who felt the shift. Across the world, animals went silent. Oceans churned with strange tides. Even the moon seemed to pale. Humanity didn't yet know it, but its very biology had been marked. Dark evolution wasn't just here to conquer, it was here to rewrite. Thor raised his hammer skyward. I have seen wars, Parker. I have seen giants, gods, and devils. But never have I felt the weight of such corruption pressing upon a realm. Yeah, well, welcome to my week, Spider-Man shot back. So, what's the plan? Hit it with lightning until it cries uncle. Thor gave a small smile. Something like that. But beware. This night will not be felled easily. It carries the hunger of 1,000 fallen worlds. Before Peter could reply, the first wave hit. Not soldiers, not ships, but spores. Microscopic motes of alien code that rained down invisibly on the streets of Manhattan. Civilians shivered as invisible claws raked across their DNA. Mutations were beginning. Spider-Man's knees buckled as his spider sense screamed louder than ever before. Thor spun Mjolnir, calling lightning to scorch the unseen rain from the air. This is bigger than the both of us, Peter gasped. This is everything. Thor's jaw tightened. And that is why we will not fail. For if we fall, Midgard itself will not survive the dawn. Above them in the storm clouds, the silhouette of the alien knight finally emerged, towering, armored, and dripping with crimson energy. Its voice rumbled across the city like thunder. Dark evolution begins. Spider-Man exhaled sharply under his mask. Yep, definitely not a nightmare. This is worse. And the war for humanity's future had just begun. The alien night awakens. The storm clouds over Manhattan refused to break. They churned like a living thing, swallowing the city's skyline in an unnatural twilight. Lightning flickered, not white or blue but a sickly crimson, as though the heavens themselves had been infected. And in the center of it stood the alien knight. The towering figure loomed above, hovering in the storm like a grim sentinel. Its armor pulsed with veins of red light, every plate alive with a faint, organic twitch. The faceplate, a mirror of obsidian black, reflected the broken city below, while its burning eyes glared like twin suns of blood. Spider-Man crouched on the ledge of a half-toppled billboard, his chest heaving. His spider sense was no longer a warning but a constant scream in his nerves. It told him one truth. This thing wasn't just dangerous, it was evolution made flesh. Thor planted Mjolnir into the rooftop with a crack, his cape whipping in the unnatural wind. His eyes narrowed. By Odin's beard, he muttered. I've seen the frost giants of Jotunheim, the fire demons of Muspelheim, but this creature, it feels neither alive nor dead. It is forged of hunger. Great, Peter quipped, though his voice was tight. So basically we're fighting the love child of a medieval knight and a DNA experiment gone wrong. Totally fine. Happens all the time in New York. The alien knight spoke, its voice vibrating the very buildings around them. Humans. Fragile. Broken. You cling to decay. But now, you will ascend. Through me, dark evolution begins. The words weren't just sound, they were felt. Every human within range flinched, clutching their heads as the knight's voice burrowed into their biology like a command. A man in the street below collapsed, his skin crawling with faint, dark veins. A woman's eyes flickered with a red sheen before she screamed. Spider-Man's gut twisted. Thor, we're not just fighting it. It's rewriting people live. Thor's hand tightened on Mjolnir. Then we end it quickly. With a roar, the god of thunder launched himself into the storm, hurling his hammer in a streak of lightning. It slammed into the knight's chest with enough force to crack mountains. But instead of falling, the alien knight caught it. Mjolnir's lightning crawled across the alien armor, absorbed into its veins as though it were nourishment. The knight tilted its head, almost mocking, before flinging the hammer back with terrifying strength. Thor barely caught it mid-spin, his arms shuddering from the impact. His eyes widened. Impossible! Spider-Man didn't have time to think. He launched himself forward, firing webs laced with liquid nitrogen cartridges, one of his in case of alien apocalypse upgrades. The webbing wrapped around the knight's arm and froze solid. Hey, ugly! Welcome to Earth. We have rules. Rule number 1. Don't mess with our DNA. Peter yanked hard, jerking the knight's stance off balance. For a moment the creature staggered. But then the frozen webs sizzled, corroded by the pulsing crimson veins. The knight turned its gaze toward Spider-Man, and for the first time, Peter felt something he hadn't since he was 15 years old. Pure, paralyzing fear. The knight extended a hand. Spider-Man's spider sense flared so violently he nearly blacked out. He jumped an instant before the rooftop melted where he had been crouching, warped and rewritten into alien tissue. Okay, Peter shouted mid-swing. That's new. Definitely new. Thor regrouped beside him, his jaw set. It consumes power. My storm feeds it. Great, so electricity's off the table, Peter said. Any chance you've got like a giant Asgardian fly swatter? Thor smirked despite the danger. Not quite. But I have something better. He raised Mjolnir high, summoning a vortex of storm clouds. But instead of hurling lightning, he brought down wind, a screaming hurricane that tore at the knight's balance. Spider-Man added his touch, webbing nearby debris, cars, signs, even a collapsed streetlight, and slingshotting them at the alien. One after another, they slammed into the knight, forcing it back step by step. For a moment it worked. Then the alien knight drove its blade into the ground. The weapon wasn't forged of steel. It was living matter, pulsing and stretching like a shard of bone. When it struck the earth, the asphalt around it cracked and changed. Buildings shivered as walls sprouted black veins. Street lamps twisted into grotesque shapes. The very city was beginning to evolve under its influence. Peter's mask lenses widened. It's not just people, it's rewriting New York. Thor growled. Then Midgard itself is the battlefield. The knight ripped its blade free and surged forward, moving with impossible speed. Thor swung Mjolnir, but the knight sidestepped and drove a fist into the god of thunder's chest, sending him crashing through 2 skyscrapers. Spider-Man launched himself directly at the creature's head, flipping mid-air and delivering a double kick to its faceplate. The knight staggered back a step, but then its hand shot up, grabbing Peter by the throat. Human. Weak. Yet defiant. Peter clawed at its grip, his vision blurring. His spider sense screamed, not in warning but in defiance. With a desperate move, he fired a web straight into the knight's eyes and yanked, wrenching himself free. He landed beside Thor, who was already climbing out of the rubble, fury in his eyes. Spider-Man, Thor said, wiping blood from his lip. This is no ordinary foe. Does not simply kill. Transforms. If it is not stopped, all of Midgard will wear its armor. Peter coughed, steadying himself. Then we don't just stop it. We outsmart it. Evolution's about survival, right? Well, humans, we're good at surviving. The knight's voice rolled across the battlefield again. Your resistance amuses me. But you will adapt. You will serve. Thor raised his hammer, sparks crackling around him. Spider-Man tightened his fists, adrenaline surging. Yeah, buddy, Peter said, his voice shaking but firm. You don't know humans very well. We don't serve, we fight. The knight lowered its blade, crimson energy swirling around it like a storm. Thor and Spider-Man squared their shoulders, ready for the next clash. The first battle had begun, and the world trembled at the awakening of the alien knight. Heroes in shadows. The night after the first clash was unlike any other in New York's history. The city wasn't sleeping. It was changing. Everywhere Spider-Man and Thor looked, the signs of infection spread. Street corners glistened with alien residue, red veins crawling up lampposts like ivy. Entire apartment blocks shimmered faintly under the alien night's influence, walls pulsating as if alive. Some civilians already showed symptoms: bloodshot eyes glowing faintly crimson, skin crawling with faint patterns like living tattoos. This wasn't an invasion. This was a rewrite. Spider-Man landed lightly on a church steeple, his chest heaving as he tried to catch his breath. His mask lenses squinted at the growing red stains across the city. I've seen symbiotes. I've fought venom, carnage, you name it. But this isn't infection. It's evolution by hostile takeover. Manhattan's becoming a petri dish. Thor landed beside him, shaking off the dust from their earlier battle. His expression was grim. Dark evolution corrupts not with conquest, but with promise. To weaker beings it appears as strength. To those desperate it whispers immortality. This night is but its herald. Peter's stomach knotted. So, you're saying this thing's basically a walking sales pitch for bad biology? Thor ignored the quip, his gaze fixed on the storm clouds above. It will not stop until every human is reshaped. Yet. He looked at Peter, almost reluctant. It did not kill you when it could. It called you defiant. Peter's fingers twitched around his web shooters. Yeah, I noticed. Not exactly comforting when your nightmare night pauses mid-chokehold to give you a Yelp review. But something nagged at him. His spider sense. Normally it was an alarm, clear, simple and direct. But since the night appeared, it had been different. Louder. Deeper. Almost like it was resonating with the threat instead of just warning about it. Thor, Peter said slowly, what if this thing doesn't just see me as prey? What if it sees me as competition? Thor studied him carefully. You are human, Peter Parker. Yet your powers, your instincts, came from a bite of chance, from nature's design reshaped. To the alien night, perhaps you are proof of what humanity could become without its corruption. Peter swallowed. So what, you're saying I'm the poster child for good evolution? Thor smirked faintly. A poor poster, perhaps. But yes. They didn't have long to ponder. From below, a scream cut through the air. Peter reacted instantly, diving into the streets. A group of civilians were cornered in a subway entrance by twisted creatures. Humans already half converted, their arms elongated into bone-like blades, their faces hidden under pulsing crimson masks. Okay, great. Zombies 2.0, Peter muttered, swinging down and webbing two of them to the wall. Another lunged at him with unnatural speed, but Thor landed like a thunderbolt, smashing Mjolnir into the pavement. The shockwave sent the creatures sprawling. Get to safety, Thor commanded the civilians, his booming voice shaking them from their paralysis. They scrambled into the subway as Spider-Man spun a web barrier behind them. One of the mutated figures hissed, its voice distorted yet eerily human. You cannot stop what is already within you. The night comes. You will join us. Peter froze. Something about the tone, it wasn't mindless. These people still had fragments of themselves. Thor saw it too. His face hardened. It spreads too quickly. Soon, even your friends may fall. Spider-Man clenched his fists. Then we need to figure out how it works. And fast. Hours later, the two found themselves in the shadows of a hidden lab, an old SHIELD facility buried under Brooklyn. Dust coated the consoles, but the system still hummed with power. Peter cracked his knuckles. Good news. We've got alien samples. He held up vials of the crimson residue scraped off infected walls. Bad news. This stuff makes symbiotes look like kittens. Thor loomed over the monitors as Peter began his analysis. On the screen, the alien cells writhed, splitting and recombining in endless patterns. They weren't attacking human DNA. They were offering alternatives, rewriting strands with ruthless efficiency. This isn't infection, Peter murmured. It's suggestion. Like an upgrade package for your biology. Problem is, It doesn't ask permission. Thor folded his arms. A temptation of power. Humans who surrender will become soldiers. Those who resist will suffer. Peter leaned back, rubbing his eyes. No wonder people are cracking. If you're old, sick, weak, this thing probably makes you feel stronger. Who wouldn't be tempted? Thor's gaze was distant. This is how dark evolution spreads across worlds. It does not conquer by fire. It seduces. Peter's mind raced. His spider sense, it hadn't been warning him. It had been resisting. Like his DNA recognized the night's influence but refused it. Thor, Peter said suddenly, I think my spider sense is the key. It's not just alerting me, it's fighting back. Maybe humans aren't as helpless as we think. Thor smiled grimly. So the answer lies not in my godhood, but in your humanity. Don't rub it in, Peter shot back. Suddenly the facility shook. Lights flickered. Dust rained from the ceiling. Peter's spider sense went wild. Thor's eyes narrowed. It has found us. The walls burst inward, torn apart by crimson energy. And there it was, the alien knight, its armor glowing brighter than before. Its voice filled the chamber. You hide in shadows, but shadows are mine. Humanity resists, yet resists in vain. You spider child, you evolve wrongly. You are an error I will correct. Thor raised Mjolnir, standing firm. You will find Midgard no easy prey, creature. Peter's heart pounded, but he forced a grin under his mask. Yeah, sorry buddy. Evolution might be your thing, but humanity. We've survived everything from asteroids to disco. We're stubborn like that. The knight raised its blade, crimson storms swirling around it. The lab shuddered under its presence. Thor and Spider-Man stood side by side, bathed in red light, shadows stretching long against the walls. They were outmatched, outpowered, but not out of fight. Thor, Peter whispered, if this thing wants to test humanity, then maybe it's time we show it what being human really means. Thor nodded, lightning sparking at his fingertips. Aye. Then tonight, the shadows will learn to fear the light. The alien knight lunged, and the battle resumed, this time not just for survival, but for the very soul of humanity.